Hello. So, I want to discuss the difference between a Kindle and a hardcover book, or paperback. Uh, a physical book versus an electronic or e-reader kind of book. And I'll be more towards the argument of keeping physical books into circulation. With technology really coming around, it seems like we are both eager and worried about technology taking over our lives. I mean, if you watch like a movie like Ex Machina, um, it's and a series like Black Mirror, it's like this consistent fear of technology and what capabilities it has. But, there's convenience to technology. We wouldn't be having these advancements unless there was some merit to them being around. So, of course, I am not advocating against the progress of human invention, but I am advocating for a format that many people are going to quickly say is outdated, but I believe that it still has its perks. And I believe this dives into a deeper discussion of like where we draw the line with technology, and if technology is more of a replacement of convenience, like it is a more convenient format, therefore we replace what is inconvenient. For example, Netflix versus Blockbuster. You don't have to get off the couch to watch something on Netflix or get it mailed to you from Netflix. But with Blockbuster, you do have to get off the couch or else you get a $20 late fee. So I'm just discussing that sort of aspect in one format. So I feel like this goes into a bigger discussion, and that's why I feel like this argument is worth making, because I feel like we are consistently talking about how technology fits into our current society, and this is really an exponential change that we've been going through. Like, around when I was born, technology was also just being born. I mean, of course, there are little things, but the advancements we've made in my lifetime personally, of like 2 decades or whatever, has been so insane to watch. It's like it's pretty much part of who I am, is watching technology progress. Whereas adults who have watched the progress of phones go from like, the rotary phone to an iPhone, to the new technology. We got computers, laptops. I can take a computer wherever I want, and as long as there's Wi-Fi, I can do almost anything I want. And Wi-Fi is everywhere now. We're trying to make Wi-Fi go into cars, and that's I'm scared of that. We already got distracted drivers. We don't need it. Anyways, with books, so I got like a pile of physical books here. These are all really big favorites of mine. I'm not going to go through them all, but like those are some big favorites. A lot of these I read even last year as part of my curriculum for a class. And they really made me think, and I really enjoyed them. My favorite book of all time is Catcher in the Rye, at least right now. A book can come along and change that opinion for me, but for now it has not. But Catcher in the Rye I love because as a future educator, this really is kind of like my ideal mindset behind why I'm becoming an educator. It's because I want to be a catcher in the rye. I want to save kids from things and from mindsets that are toxic in like the adult life, and I don't necessarily want to stop them from growing up like Holden does, because he's so scared of losing his adolescence. But I do want to warn them and to be more of a beacon of hope than what other teachers seem to be. Teachers often will be like, well, wait until you get to college, you're going to get completely stressed out and you're going to hate everything and yada yada, and they're right. But I wish that they would tell you the great things about college. I never heard about how you are piloting your own day and you can kind of control your schedule. Maybe not for everybody, especially once you get into more of your major. They kind of choose that for you. But I like so many things about college, being on your own and really finding yourself. This whole year for me personally has been an experience of finding myself. And I feel like a lot of people have those in college. I don't think I am the only spokesperson for that experience. I think college really is the place to find yourself and really experience things. A lot of people I see and meet, both alumni and current college students, I have seen and heard them saying that, like, oh, I did that in college, or oh, I experienced that in college, and it's usually very worthwhile things that they're describing when they say those things. Or you meet people in college, like long-time friends, because you really know yourself, or you at least hopefully are beginning to know yourself, and you meet maybe even significant others, or just long-term friendships. But these relationships we make really are worthwhile. And like that whole mindset I get from reading this book. And there is something about reading a physical book, holding this book in my hand. I have Catcher in the Rye in my hand. I can look at these pages, and I can look at my progress. Like, if I'm here in this book, this is very early in the book. This is like page 20. I see that I still have a large chunk left, and I can instantly, bam, see, like, oh, I'm at the end of the book. There's about 210 pages-ish, and I'm at page 24, so I know how many pages I have left. And you can kind of scroll ahead. Oh, this is chapter 6. So now I see where chapter 6 is. It's 40 pages in. So I can say, hey, maybe if I have a lot of time on my hands, I can say, let's read to chapter 6, because that's reading 5 whole chapters and getting to page 40. I feel like that's a pretty nice goal. So I don't own a Kindle or any e-reader, obviously, because I'm advocating against it. So I don't own one, otherwise it would be hypocritical of me. So I'm just going to use my Nintendo Switch as kind of like a sub-in for that. I'll even take off the little sticks here so it looks like it's just like an iPad. Hey, look, it's a Kindle. Just kidding, it's my Switch. But when I'm holding a Kindle, it's a huge electronic piece. This is pretty close to what it is. So when you're holding one, it's kind of like a mini iPad or a large phone. And people like to say how accessible it is in terms of travel. This could hold 100 books. As we see here, this right here is just 6 books. And already this is, in comparison, it's a lot. I recognize that. But are you really going to read 6 books when you're traveling? I feel like you bringing along, like, most people read 1 book, and then once you're done, you move on to the next one. Some people might read 2, but why would you ever bring 2 anywhere? Why would I ever go anywhere with my Antonia and Catcher in the Rye and go, I believe that during this vacation where I'm gone for 2 days, I'm going to read 2 whole books. Or, maybe I'm close to finishing this one, and I'm like, maybe halfway through this one, and I think, I'm going to have time to finish both of these books. Even then, it's 2 books at most. I feel like most people, when they're traveling, if you're traveling with more than 2 books, you're probably the person that has like 5 bags when you go to the airport because you think you need to pack your whole house for a 2-day trip to Florida. I understand the Kindle is accessible. I understand that this packed in your luggage is so much easier in your mind than to carrying all these books, because you feel like all your books are in this one place, at this one, ignore that, in this one tablet, and you believe that is much better than having all these books. But I believe that there is so much to gain from holding a book. For one, the social dynamics. I know reading is not a social activity. I am fully aware of that, all right? And, as somebody that likes to read and not necessarily likes social interaction, I am fully aware that reading is not a social interaction. It's why it's one of the reasons I do it, because I enjoy my independence, my own time. But when I'm sitting here reading this book, see, I'm sitting like this, and I'm like, Holden Caulfield, blah, 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 playing chess with Jane, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and he's getting beat up, and he's smoking, yada, yada. I'm sitting here reading this book. Easily somebody could come up and be like, hey, you're reading The Catcher in the Rye. It says it on both sides. You're double reading Catcher in the Rye. No, you're reading Catcher in the Rye. That's so cool. I read that book in high school, and I didn't like it then, but now I read it again, and I love it, and I think it's a great book, and I get why we read it in high school, especially because the kid in the book is in high school, and it's a very worthwhile experience overall. Blah, blah, blah. You're suddenly in a discussion with somebody over a book that you're reading. And yes, they're possibly invading the only time of the day that you have to read this book, but sometimes human interaction is more important than reading this book. In fact, most of the time when you're reading a book, you want the social interaction because you want to talk about the book. I mean, you're experiencing this whole thing. Why not discuss it with somebody? I love this book over here. It's called But What If We're Wrong? It's by Chuck Klosterman. No, I'm not holding it upside down. This is actually how the book is formatted. You can see the back is right side up. But that's the whole joke. But what if we're wrong? What if books shouldn't be like that? That's the joke. But this whole book is about, like, thinking about things that we believe are facts and seeing them in a scope that we use when looking at the past. So when we look at the past, we're often saying, oh, it was so stupid of us to believe that we were the center of the galaxy and all the planets revolved around us. How stupid of us, how egotistical for us to believe that. But, one of the smartest scientists of that time period believed that because he actually did some logical thinking. And then a smarter dude came around and did better logical thinking and was like, I don't think you're right, dude. And, if you ever watch Always Sunny, that segment in there where they discuss that and how science is wrong sometimes. But, when I read this book, I brought it up to people so much. I said, dude, you need to read this book, But What If We're Wrong, by Chuck Klosterman. This dude's really smart, and he's talking to smart people about smart things, and I think that this is a really worthwhile book. And I kept bringing it up to people, and I said, oh, yeah, but what if we're wrong? You should maybe read it. But I don't expect everyone to read it. So, of course, I got to talk about, like, some of the concepts and say, like, oh, he brings up this concept of blah, 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 blah. And then I got to discuss those concepts because as I was reading the book, that's a concept that came into my head, and then I was able to discuss it. If I'm not reading the book, then I'm not discussing these things. And you're probably thinking, well, you could read that. You could read the Kindle, and you can get those concepts they're the same concepts on the same format. You're still reading words, but you do lose that social dynamic when you're out in public, because here's what I look like in public reading a Kindle. What book am I reading? Could be Moby Dick. Could be Huckleberry Finn. You have no idea. Even if I put, pretend there are words on here, you have no idea. You maybe if you're being really sneaky and looking over somebody's shoulder and eavesdropping, you can be like, oh, I see it says Huck there. I see it says Huck. You must be reading Huckleberry Finn. Let me discuss it with you. But then you're creeped out because you're like, why were you looking at my Kindle? You know, if somebody, if I was on a page in Catcher in the Rye and somebody said, oh, you're at the part where Ackley and Stradlater get in a fight, I'd be like, yeah, why are you reading over my shoulder again? But if you come up to me and say, oh, I read Catcher in the Rye, that's a great book, and I say, oh, I'm about halfway through, I just got to the part, or I really liked the part where Ackley and Stradlater get in a fight, you'd be like, oh yeah, I love that part. Of course I don't like fighting, but, I believe it shows that how, sometimes, true respect and care is shown in different forms, and then we can discuss it. With a Kindle, the discussion is limited to beginning with, what are you reading? And at that point, I just don't want to get involved with that discussion, because then it's like, oh, I'm reading Catcher in the Rye. Oh, I've read that book. Oh, great. Like, you are just doing this because you want to talk to somebody. It feels a little more forced than if I'm reading this physical book in public and somebody comes up to me and goes, oh my god, you're reading Catcher in the Rye. It's more of a spontaneous, oh my god moment. Whereas with the Kindle, it seems forced to start a discussion on that. So that is the social dynamic of reading a physical book. Note-taking is another thing. I don't know exactly the format of a Kindle, but maybe you could take notes on it. I'm not sure. I don't know how they deal with that. But personally, I feel like writing notes is a little more stimulating. I've been in classes before where teachers have advised that you don't use a laptop and actually use physical notes, because apparently, because writing is a slower process and a little more mindful, you actually retain the information you're writing down. That's the scientific explanation. I haven't experienced that myself. I write something down and it's like, it's in one ear, out the other, But I do believe in that. I do believe that note-taking is a stronger, physically writing is a stronger format than if you were to type. And I like post-it notes personally. It doesn't ruin the book. And you can use it as a bookmark too, and you can mark up pages. I don't know if you've ever seen an English teacher, but if you've seen an English teacher's book, like if we were reading Catcher in the Rye, it's like post-it notes all around everywhere. It's like they have something written for like every page. Oh, this is the part where we find out an introspective moment with Holden. That's just being an English teacher, and I have to experience that soon. Oh, that's a lot. But with a Kindle, you could post as many sticky notes as you want, but all it does is just get cluttered on your screen. You can't post physical sticky notes on this. You can post it on the back, but you won't know what page. I mean, if you write the page, it's just gonna it gets a mess. Whereas the sticky notes on a book, you can write a sticky note, paste it on a page as you're finishing that page, and then you can turn and move on. And then later, when you come back to the book, you get to those pages and you go, oh, here's the sticky note for this page. It says blah, 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 blah. You read it and you're like, oh my god, yeah, that is a good thought past me. Good job. But with this, I just don't see that being as solid of a concept on a Kindle. Another thing is charging and technical difficulties. Technology, we love technology, but another thing with technology is you do have to plug it in every night and make sure that it's charged. This comes at 100% battery. Every time you come back to this book, you don't need a cable, you don't need headphones, you don't need anything. All you need is this one physical book. There's nothing else but this physical book, and that leads into another discussion of distractions. On a Kindle, I don't know a lot about a Kindle, but I did a little bit of research, of course, because I want to make sure my arguments are thorough and well developed. with a Kindle, it's basically an iPad. You can get apps on a Kindle. You can get games. You can get music. And I mean, some of these things aid reading. Like, some people do listen to music while they read. It's got to be less stimulating music, I assume, because if you're reading and you're listening to a song that you want to jam out to, or it has lyrics that makes you think, then you're going to get distracted. But if it's, it's some mindless music in the background, I understand that. But personally, when I'm on my cell phone, I have a tendency to open an app and, like, let's say I'm on Facebook. I'll be scrolling through Facebook for a while, read a few statuses, and maybe go, I don't know that name. Somebody's talking about a celebrity I don't know. Close out, go to Google. Type in the celebrity's name. Oh, they were in that movie I've seen. How did I not recognize them? Oh, because they were dressed up as an alien in that movie, so I nobody would have recognized them. And then I go into that movie, and I'm like, oh, that movie had this person in it. You get the idea. I go down a rabbit hole, and then I click out of that. I'm like, I'm done with that rabbit hole. I completely forget I was on Facebook. I start opening Reddit, and then I go on Reddit, and I'm like, oh my god, there's this concept on there called pantheism, and I just want to look up pantheism for a half hour. These are real experiences I've had, and you're just sucked into your phone. And of course you're still reading, but you're not reading the thing that you're trying to read. You're not reading the book, the story that you sought after to read. And now you're just in this to stay on the literacy train rabbit hole, like in Alice in Wonderland, where you dove into it and you're trying to follow this white rabbit, and you're just in this world of, like, oh, there's the Queen of Hearts, oh, there's the Cheshire Cat, oh, I'm big, oh, I'm small, oh, here's all these freaky things, but you're completely missing what task you were doing beforehand, which was chasing that rabbit. Anyways, the Kindle has too many distractions, I feel like, and personally, it's so easy to close out of an app, to text, to go on Facebook, to do whatever you want. And I feel like when I'm reading, I really try to pocket my phone or put it somewhere away from me and just isolate myself and really get myself into the world of this book. And that's what I find more appealing about physical books. I feel like if I'm staring at a screen, I'm not as lost in the world of the book. Another thing, and this is a smaller point, so I don't want to go on it too much, apparently the screens that we look at are apparently damaging to our eyes. So looking at a page actually is, healthier. Go on a screen diet, won't you? I got you covered for Weight Watchers, except mine is Screen Watchers. We're gonna watch less screens. We're gonna get less weight. Watch less screens. Anyways, the charging thing, like I said before, and the technical difficulties with, sometimes your Kindle's not working or whatever. You could break it. You could spill something on it. Another thing is how much care you put into it. I mean, like, when I'm carrying something like this around, this is a Switch. If I'm carrying my Switch around, I have a case. I have a case for my Switch. This is if something hits this, I'm a little concerned, but I'm not too concerned because I feel like this is protecting my Switch. And every time I'm not using my Switch, I put it back in this case. I never leave it. If I leave it out, I'm watching it, and it's like charging or something. I'm supervising my Switch. I would get so scared. And I have a case and a screen protector on my phone. Like, we are so scared of technology because of technology breaking, because it's so simple. It's so easy to break technology. Easy as screen crack, and screen crack just ruins it. If I rip a page in a book, I'll be personally sad because I'm just kind of a perfectionist like that and slightly OCD, where like a rip in a page gets me a little heated and I might have to cut someone. But a rip in a page is not the end of the world. There's tape, glue. You're not going to glue paper, but whatever it is. Tape exists, and it's going to be really hard to tape something or to rip something where it's not repairable. These can be non-repairable and damages. You can't put rice on everything, uh, but you can put tape on it on pages. So there's that too. Another thing is the price. I've looked into the price of a Kindle. They're around like $150 or something, I believe. I didn't write it down anywhere. They're around $150, maybe $200. I don't know. Maybe let's even round down. Let's say they're $100, just $100 for this. Already, we have entered the realm of you could get more bang for your buck. $100 could probably buy me. Let's say if you wanted a brand new book, it's around $10 to $20. Let's round up and say $20. 5 books for $100, and that's you're hopefully aware that is an underestimate. I could probably, with used book prices and like thriftbooks.com and all the used bookstores out there, you could get for $100 so many books. It's insane how many books you can get. You could find so many books out there for like $4 each, and now we're entering the realm where you can get 25 books for $100 instead of this for $100, and this just holds the books. And now you're probably thinking, well, Kindles, they give you some free books. Yeah, they do, but they might not necessarily be the books you want to read. And I looked up the prices of Kindle books on Amazon. I was looking through some of the books that I personally want to read soon, and they're on like my Amazon wish list. So I was looking up what it would be to buy it new. And for most of them, let's say it's like $12. The Kindle was like 11 or 10. Some of them, it was like 12 or 13. Like, it was more than the book. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't understand. I don't understand how you could allow that. Because when I'm buying an app, it's like, I don't buy an app for more than $5. And there are apps that are free, and like, maybe they have some offers in the app or whatever. But for the most part, like, if I'm buying something on a smaller scale, like an electronic device, like, for example, with video games, like, if I'm buying something from the online store of, let's say for Nintendo Switch, if I'm buying something for the online store of a Switch, I don't want it to be more than $60, because I'm not paying for the physical cartridge. So why would I pay why would I pay the same price for something that's not physical? Whereas you could pay the same price and get the physical cartridge, and it ends up taking up less data, and you get a physical thing that you can, have. Like, that just sounds more appealing to me. So anytime I buy a game that's only going to be on here, it's got to be like in the $10 range. But if I want a physical cartridge for the Switch, I'm willing to pay the higher price, because you get the case and you get the actual cartridge, and it's usually a bigger game too. Like, it's more popular game or whatever, or it's an actual, like, there actually is more content to the game than the stuff you get on the shop. So I believe that if you're buying something in a digital format where you don't actually get the physical thing, and if it's the same price or more than you getting a physical thing, that just doesn't make sense to me. I know you have one physical thing, but I can't tell you what this book is. This is many books. This is Catcher in the Rye. I bought this, I don't even know how much it was, like $8, So I do believe the price is an issue, with them being both pretty much the same price, if not like $1 difference. And you're already paying $100 for the Kindle, so why are you still paying the same price as if you were to have the physical book? It doesn't make any sense to me, because now we're entering realms of like, I'm a poor college student and I can't afford that. Uh, I rather buy the textbook at that point. I've had classes where they were like, "Oh, you could buy the textbook online, or you could buy the digital copy," and the digital copy ends up being 200, and the textbook is like 100, and you're just like, "Why would I buy the digital copy?" I'd rather have the physical book for so many reasons, and price is one of them. Uh, I believe, as a college student, trying to scrape together as many pennies as I can, um, that, if I want 100 books on a Kindle versus 100 books in real life, paying, 100, let's say they're all $4. I'd rather pay the 400 for the physical books than the extra 100 for the e-reader, just to have them all in the same place. Whoa, big whoop. There are bookcases. Like, your house is going to look so empty without like a bookcase. They visually look nice. It's like, every look up like a mansion, or like, any nice house. Almost every nice house that I've ever been to has a nice bookshelf, and it looks beautiful, beautiful. And maybe it's the English major in me, but it looks stunning. And then I start like looking through them, not only because I like looking at books, but also I'm trying to find the secret switch to their secret hideout. But I think bookshelves are physically appealing, and I love them. And I can't wait until I'm older, because even if I'm like in some apartment when I'm like older or whatever, or I live alone, I will own a bookshelf and put it right on my wall and just have all these books in there, all this. And it's like I read that. When I look at this and go, I read that, it doesn't feel as accomplished as if I were to put a bookshelf of every book I've ever read and went, I read those. So that's a probably more personal thing, but maybe a few of you can relate to that. Whoever is theoretically watching this. Finally, I want to get to like one of my bigger points. I know those are all like, I don't want to diminish the severity of those points, but I feel like this one might be my biggest. Libraries. Look. We are so worried about technology taking over. But if Kindles are the best technology can do, trust me, technology will not take over. I will be the advocate for technology to know its role and shut its mouth. Libraries are an amazing invention, all right? And they are so underappreciated in the elementary, middle, even sometimes high school levels. In the K through 12 levels, I feel like the libraries that are built into your schools are so underappreciated. That's so amazing to have that resource. It is a quiet place where you can go and study. And I know, you could just make a room that is the study room. I mean, people have those all the time, like study halls and stuff. But here's the thing. Resourceful. And I know you're probably thinking, what about computers? Computers, the best resource you could possibly have. Yeah, I guess. But there's so many books out there that you can't find on Google, that have information you can't find on Google. Plus, I believe that libraries build a community. You can't really build a community around computers. Everyone's on their own screen doing their own thing. And like I mentioned before, the social aspect of you reading a book and somebody talking with you about the book, I believe that libraries are one of the best resources known to students, and not only students, but anybody willing to gain knowledge or sanctuary. I I use a library near my house all the time. It's so close, it's close enough to my house that I could pretty much walk there. I bike there sometimes, and it's such a nice environment, and I don't want to lose that environment. Like, it's just, when you walk into a library, you might get a stink eye from some person who needs to, check themselves before they wreck themselves. But for the most part, you walk into a library, it's like, hi, how you doing? It's this nice, like, soft speak. People are so sweet, and you can just be like, hey, I don't know where this book is, and I really want to read it. And I'm like, oh, let me look it up for you. I'll use my computer. Oh, it's in this aisle over here. Here you go. Here's your book. And you're just like, oh my God, I just want to hug all of you and just just melt in this place. I want to be buried here. It's just so amazing. And you can maybe get that. You don't get that from a bookstore, Like, I just recently went to a bookstore. I went to Books A Million. Uh, this is not a product placement for them. I went there, and when I went there, it was really hectic because it's the holidays, and the people that go to a bookstore are not necessarily the people that read books, because personally, I was going there to buy books for people, and that's just a coincidence that I just so happen to also love books. But if you asked me 5 years ago to go to a bookstore, I'd maybe act interested for like a little bit, but after a while I'd be like, meh, I don't like reading, blah blah blah. We don't have to talk about like high school me, because that's a completely different person, honestly. But reading is underappreciated, and I feel like people who shop for other people at bookstores make it a different environment than a library. A library, you know what those people are coming in there for. They need a book. They need a place to study. They need whatever it is. And it's such a nice environment. You don't get that kind of environment really anywhere else. It's unmatched. And you can get it maybe at your own home, but there's no real like social dynamic to that. Plus, your own home has so many other things, distractions, like I mentioned before, that the library is the sole purpose of reading. It aids you in developing the fantasy of the text. And that's what I enjoy about libraries. There's just something about it. Plus, like I mentioned with the price, this is why I feel like libraries is one of my biggest points. It factors into all these points: the social aspect, the price, the disconnecting. All these things fall into the library category. That's why I feel like it's such a big part of my argument here. But the price, I mean, it's free, unless you, and it's not like Blockbuster where it's like, excuse me, it's not like Blockbuster at all. But it's not like Blockbuster where you get a book, you get a video for like 2 days for like $7. It's like, wow, what a deal. Well, the library, I shit you not. Ooh. Sorry, this is PG-13. I shit you not. You go to a library and you go in there, get a book, go up to the front desk, they stamp it. You look at that date and it's only like 3 weeks away, but it looks so far away because usually it's a month in the future, because unless you're doing it at the very beginning of the month, and even then it ends up being the end of the month. It's just long enough away where it sounds like it's not even a plausible date. I love that distance. It's so less stressful to be like, hey, today is, what's actually today? The 17th. Today's December 17th that I am making this. And if I were to go into the library right now, stamp a book, they would give it back to me and go like, this is due back July 9th. January. Not that long. You don't get that long. January 9th. January, I still have like Christmas and New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and then I have a week more after that before I have to give you this book back. And I don't even have to necessarily give it back to you. I can just put it in the chute, or I can renew it, and I can get it again for another 3 weeks, and then it's like, you don't own this back until January 31st. I'm like, dude, you're talking like centuries away. It's so less stressful because that gives you so much time to read it. I don't go to a library and get a book unless I know I have that time to read it, because I don't want any stress with the book. I want to take my time with the book. There was one time I did get a book and I did not have time to read it. It was right around when my semester was starting. I didn't realize how much time I don't have. But I thought I could do it, especially because it was a collection of short stories. It was 10th of December by George Saunders, if anyone's curious. And I read some of the stories and I thought it was alright, but I realized I don't have a lot of time to read this, which sucked a little. But it wasn't terrible. In fact, I got to read enough of it where I was like, yep, I'm good with like being done with this book. Sometimes you watch a movie and you're just like, 20 minutes in, you're like, there's nothing it can do at this point that will make me love this movie. At most, I'll like it. That's how that book felt. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. So, point being made, physical books make all these aspects happen. Libraries, they're cheaper. Used books, you can't get a used e-reader copy. Used books is such a hot market right now because I've been to used book sales and they'll be selling them for like $2. You're like, oh my god, that is a steal. This is how you sell books, people. You put them at a low price so people buy like 10 of them. 10 $2 books is $20. You just got rid of 10 books and got $20. That's insane, and you're catering to my audience here of English majors. But they help you disconnect. They stimulate your senses, specifically your brain. They help you think. And I know social media, you can read all the time, but there's just something about physical books that I really love. Of course, like I said in the beginning, I am not here to throw technology under any metaphorical bus. I am in support of technology's advances. Maybe not to the ex machina sense, maybe not to the extent of a Black Mirror where it is consuming my life or meeting dire consequences for me. But I am in support of some of the technological advances. I would not be making this without the use of a video. Or I have my laptop right next to me. I have a monitor that I use to watch movies. I like technology. I don't hate technology. But when it comes to my books, don't touch my books. No. But I don't mind if you even use a Kindle, to be honest. It's just I find personal gains in reading a physical book. And that's what most of this is about. Is about my personal perspective on why I prefer a physical book over a Kindle. I don't think I'll ever buy a Kindle in my lifetime, and if I do, it'll likely be somebody else buys it for me, and I'll be like, yay, kind of. And for the most part, I enjoy reading. I really do. It's hard in this day and age where everything is stressing me out, and pretty much anytime I'm sitting down reading, I'm also thinking of scenarios and like people and things that are happening in my life, all these things. My head is a cluster. But reading sometimes, if I'm really into a book, can subdue that cluster and leave me with an environment where I don't have to be myself. And I'm not saying I don't want to be myself. I love being myself. I hope that you like being yourself. But there are some moments in the day where you spend 24/7 being yourself. For once, I like to be in the shoes of a Holden Caulfield or a Huck Finn and see things from their perspective. It might not be my perspective, especially in the sense of like a Huck Finn. Actually, in the sense of a Holden, I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't try and get in fights with people. I'm not dropping out of school anytime soon, hopefully. But I am an advocate for reading, obviously. I'm going to be an English teacher, so that's something that I am, you know, passionate for. Um, and I can't wait to continue my collection of books. I'm also kind of a collector, so I will admit that bias. I like collecting. I don't know what it is. I like building my repertoire of things. I collect like DVDs to be like, oh, I've watched all these movies and I love them. I collect like CDs. I can be like, ah, these are my favorite albums. Maybe I'm outdated. You know, maybe I'm going to be the guy that in modern ages would be like, vinyl is the superior way to listen to music. Uh, but, you know, if he had an argument as thorough as this for why he enjoys vinyl more than Spotify, then go at it. You're like, you know, this is all personal preference, and I believe that that is what this boils down to, is personal preference. In the age of technology, we are not fighting against or for technology, or at least I'm not. Some people probably are out there, but I hope that the main takeaway from this is no matter how far technology progresses, there are going to be people that just prefer the other way. This specifically, this is for a class, and in that class, you know, I expect only the only people to watch this being in this class, but just in case somebody's watching this outside of my class that this is for, um, in my class, my teacher mentioned books just have a smell that are just nice. And she also mentioned that if you're reading it on a beach, you can use it as a pillow. And, you know, this is a kind of a funny response, but deep down, what this means is books are what you make them. And, you know, if they're a book on a beach for you and you just like that, or a pillow on a beach for you, and you just like that idea and that environment in your head, then go all for it. Like, you can't sleep on a Kindle, you know, that is not a good pillow. I can't say I've ever used my laptop as a pillow, or my phone as a pillow, or anything like that. I've never used my monitor as a blanket, but yeah, and you know that's not the functional intention with a book. But you get what I'm saying, or you get what my teacher's saying, and like just the smell, like there are just some inexplicable things about preferring one format over the other. And as we move into the age of technology, and this is my main takeaway, as we move into the age of technology, I believe that there are going to be camps, there are going to be people who want to advocate for books like die-hard fans, and then there are people who want to die-hard advocate for technology. And I think we can live in an environment with both. I don't think technology is overtaking books, because there's a, you know, even with audio CDs and such like that, that is just a convenience, but it's not the same convenience, because sometimes people are listening to audio CDs while they're doing laundry or whatever, and sometimes that also can be or not as disconnecting. You're not as engulfed in the world that you are listening to. So I believe that we are living in a world of personal preference, and as formats become more diverse, I believe that there are going to be diverse mindsets on these formats. And I want the main takeaway here to be: do not strictly advocate for one. You know, and it might be a little hypocritical for me to sound like I'm strictly advocating for books, but I'm explaining it more from a personal perspective. That this is why I personally enjoy books. So hopefully that is your main takeaway as well. That you might prefer Kindle, and I have no problems with that. Read your Kindle. This is just why I personally enjoy books more. And I believe each of us have a reasoning behind why we do the things we do. Sometimes you look at somebody and you're like, why are you doing that? And I believe that we shouldn't be so judgmental, and we should realize that some people just really like the aesthetic or the feel of certain formats over another. I get questioned all the time why I still buy DVDs. there's just something about over like a Blu-ray, for one, price, but for two, I just like DVDs. I feel like Blu-ray, sometimes the cases are a little different. Sometimes they're a little more expensive, like I said. They don't play on as many formats. I mean, eventually they will, but like I can't pop in a Blu-ray on like an older DVD player. So like there's just some sort of accessibility thing I like, and that's a whole other discussion. But the point here is I want the main takeaway to be that everyone has their own preferences, and in the age of technology, where technology is progressing rapidly, our personal preferences are going to expand, and I believe that we should not marginalize those who have a format that might not be the mainstream format. It's kind of it might be a stretch, I don't know. You can be the judge of that, but thank you for watching. This is way too long. Maybe I should have done a podcast, because now I'm watching the time. It's at like 51 minutes, and I don't plan to edit anything down. I like the raw footage that I just made. So thanks again for listening to that rant, and possibly watching if you really want to look at this ugmug for 51 minutes and counting. But again, I hope this is stimulating, and I hope this is worthwhile. I don't want to create something and talk about something for this long for it not to be worth your time. So thanks again. Have a great day, whatever day you're watching this on. Or have a great night, or have a great morning. I don't care. I don't know. All right, bye.